to makruh. To makruh. It may move it from haram to makruh. Jazakallah khair. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Keep that in mind. The verdict cannot be pronounced without doing these things. I know, in the experience with the public of us, of Muslims, of people who are interested in knowledge and learn and teach and so on, these things are not followed. Also, one has to look at what? Something I don't think I mentioned, did I? No, I didn't even mention that part. We didn't have time to mention that. How does it read there? The third one. Al-what? Al-itlaq? Al-itlaq, right? Right. Versus al-qara'in also. To lead to what? At-taqyid. Mutlaq versus muqayyad. We spoke of am versus khas, right? There is also mutlaq versus muqayyad. A text, a meaning can be a mutlaq in one text and muqayyad in another text of the Quran or of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So, for example, Allah says in the Quran, قل لا أجد فيما أوحي إلي محرما على طاعم يطعمه إلا أن يكون ميتة. Now before that, let me go to the other ayah. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير, and so on. Allah in this surah says حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل به لغير الله والمنخنقة والموقوذة, and so on. Allah says in this ayah, it is made haram for you al-mayta and the dam and blood and so on. So when you read ad-dam is haram, besides some many other arguments that we have to use here, ad-dam is mentioned here without qualifier. So if you read this, that means any type of dam, any kind of dam is haram. And of course, by the concept of iqtida and other things, it means consumption and so on. We pass that for now. Excuse me. That ayah taken alone may lead to some conclusion that in the Shari'i sense is incorrect. Why is it incorrect? Because there's another ayah which does qualification to this itlaq. Now this is dam mutlaq, unqualified. There is no epithet next to it that says it's qualified by being this type of blood or not that type of blood. It's unqualified, all types of blood. But another ayah qualifies that blood by saying what? In the other ayah in Surah Al-An'am, قُلْ لَا أَجِدُ مَا أُوحِيَ فِي مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ مُحَرَّمًا عَلَى طَاعِمٍ يَطْعَمُهُ إِلَّا أَن يَكُونَ مَيْتَةً أَوْ دَمًا مَسْفُوحًا. Masfuhan is an adjective, as a qualifier. It qualifies the dam that is haram. And that is the dam masfuh, gushing blood. In other words, why, we don't pay attention to why do as Muslims you eat liver? Liver is halal. It has blood in it. Why do you eat meat when you go and cut it and eat meat? There is still some blood left in it. You still can eat it. It's halal. Because of these two ayat together. Because what is haram is not all blood, gushing blood, flowing blood. So the second ayah qualifies the intent behind the blood intended. In the first ayah. That's called taqyidul mutlaq. Qualifying of the unqualified or the absolute. And again, a person may read a text in the Sunnah or in the Quran and it says something, but it is qualified by some other texts that he's not aware of or they're not aware of. especially those who don't care about the opinions of the mujtahidun and the ulama, and they go look at the Quran by themselves and come to conclusions. Most of those who speak like that don't even memorize the Quran, don't even know the language very well. And if you study very well, you will so be humble that you will say, after all what you know, as a mujtahid, you will say, I cannot do that by myself. And alhamdulillah, for the cumulative knowledge from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam through the ulama, that every student of ilm has learned to be able to appreciate the sources of law. No alim is a alim having not studied the legacy of ilm, the cumulative ilm and the legacy of ilm. Like in mathematics, you cannot be really a good mathematician if you have not studied the basic mathematics and come up and so on. In any other field, it's the same way. So they don't do that until they look at if there is taqeed or not. So we have here mutlaq, meaning that is mutlaq. Is there anything in the rules, in the sources of shara, whether it's in the sunnah or whether it's in ijma' or sometimes even in qiyas, in accordance to many ulama, something that will qualify the unqualified before they make a statement. And then we have another example. Al-am, is there qarina, presumptive evidence, that will make it what? Khas. Is there am that will make it khas? For example, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us to establish zakah, to give zakah pertaining to from the products of earth. وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So this is a general statement. And other texts in the Quran that imply that we give zakah in general from the produce of earth. And therefore, any and every produce of earth, by that ayah, because it's general in the scope of the meaning of that word, of those words, every produce of earth is zakatable from that ayah of the Quran. But if we go to the authentic sunan of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find something else that does takhsis lidhalika al-am, that specifies the generality in those texts, such as the text that teaches, authentic text that teaches, ليس فيما دون خمسة أوسق صدقة. For instance, ليس فيما دون خمسة أوسق صدقة. In that which is less than 5 awsuq, something like close to 700 kilos, there is no sadaqah, there is no zakah. Now this text خصص عموما that text. This text specifying meaning removing a subset from that set from the verdict associated with it. The verdict associated with all produce of the earth is zakah is obligatory. A subset of those produce of the earth is removed from that obligation. And that subset is what? The quantity of in khamsatu awsuq, something close to 700 kilos. See? But if one ignored this text, then he would be demanding zakah from everyone. Unless he brings an argument for that. That's what the Hanafi school does. In the Hanafi school, zakah is for less and more. Whether it is 5 awsuq or not. It is zakatable. And the argument here is part of the beauty of differences. Time does not permit me to elaborate long, but let me tell you this. Alhamdulillah, some of you will still understand, and some of us, if you don't understand clearly, keep listening to that and keep reading, as we say, and we keep studying, and things will become clearer and clearer. Part of the argument is the following. Subhanallah. The lafz al-am, the general word that has a set of elements. دلالته على معناه قطعية أم ظنية؟ قطعية أم ظنية؟ In other words, this meaning that all these elements are included in this set that is general, is this definitive قطعي? This meaning is definitive قطعي, or is it probabilistic ظني? First of all, you're going to pose it. They ask these questions. So that's what a mujtahid is. That's how this ulum developed. So that one of us who doesn't even pass sometimes, some exam at some level and may get an F, says, I don't need these mujtahids. I am by myself enough. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Now the point is, is this qat'i or dhanni? And they have arguments, beautiful logical arguments, and from the Quran and the Sunnah and the precedents. And they are well established in the works of Usool ul-Fiqh. Now one group of ulama say it is qat'i. And one group of ulama say it is dhanni, probabilistic. But probabilistic means what? That there is a probability that in that umum, in that generality, some of the elements are an exception. Though they are there, but they're not intended to be there. It's always possible, theoretically probable. That's dhanni. And that's the opinion of the schools like, the Maliki school, the Shafi'i school, and the Hanbali school. The other opinions say it is qat'i. There is no such a probability. It is qat'i. And they have their arguments, beautiful arguments on both sides. Right. Now, if an ayah of the Quran expresses a meaning that is am through a word that is am, and there is a verdict from that, and then there is a hadith that is sahih, non-mutawatir. Sahih, non-mutawatir. Remember what we mentioned earlier? Sahih, non-mutawatir. Ahad, sahih, non-mutawatir. And in that it conveys a meaning about the same subject that is different. Like the text I mentioned. لَيْسَ فِي مَا دُونَ خَمْسَةِ أَوْسُقٍ صَدَقَةٍ. That's a text of the Sunnah, hadithun sahih, ahad. Less than 5 awsuq, there is no zakah. That's the text from the Sunnah. The ayah from the Quran says, for example, وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. The other ayah, يَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنْفِقُوا مِنْ طَيِّبَةِ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ وَمِمَّا أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ وَلَا تَيَمَّمُوا الْخَبِيثَ مِنْهُ تُنْفِقُونَ. For example. And these ayah are general in the zakah from the produce of the earth being general for all produce of the earth. And in general, didn't specify quantity or this or that. Now the text of the Sunnah specified quantity. The ulama, most of them say, this hadith, يخصص this ayah. The specificity of this hadith specifies the generality of this ayah. And therefore, the subset that is excluded from that ayah is the amount of 5 أوسق. And for them, that's easy to resolve. Why? Because, first of all, in this case, the Quran in its thubut, is qat'i. Right? And the dilala of the umum is, in accordance to most of them, is dhanni, as we mentioned. So you have qat'i thubut, dhanni dilala. Like you can multiply that. So the product is dhanni. The others say, yes, the ayah is qat'i in the thubut, and the am is, to them, qat'i also. The Hanafi jurisprudence. Am doesn't imply ظني في دلالته على ذلك المعنى العام, but it is قطعي, as we said. So they have قطعي and قطعي together in an ayah. And then the hadith, ahad hadith, in the thubut is ظني. And in the specific meaning, it is about 5 أوسق, it is قطعي خاص. So it is قطعي. So they have ظني and قطعي versus قطعي and قطعي. They say we cannot do that. You see the point? I think I have to repeat it. Should I? This is so beautiful. The ayah of the Quran that speaks of zakah in general from all produce of the earth. That is قطعي الثبوت and am, in accordance to the majority, is ظني الدلالة. Thubut, the origin of this text, is definitive, conclusive, probability 1. The meaning it conveys of generality, in accordance with the Jumhur we established, they say it is ظني. So you have a text, as a text is قطعي في الثبوت, and the meaning inside of it is ظني. So you have قطعي and ظني. And then the text of the Sunnah in this case contains what? Sunnah, which is ahad, is ظني, thubut, and the term khas, 5, is قطعي. So they have ظني and قطعي, so they are equal, so they can match each other. They can use this for that. Did you see that? So they can do takhsis for that am. They can specify the generality in the ayah with the specificity in the hadith, because they are at the same magnitude, same level. Each one is strong enough to operate on the other. The Hanafi jurisprudence say we beg to disagree on the basis of the same principles. The Quran is just قطعي الثبوت, that we all agree. But we have argued with you that the dilala of the am, that there is a chance, there's a probability that a subset is excluded from that, doesn't exist with us. So the dilala of the am is قطعي. So we have thubut قطعي and dilala قطعية. So we have قطعي times قطعي in that ayah. Now let's go to the hadith, and we agree with you. That's a combination of ظني and قطعي versus قطعي and قطعي. They're not equal in strength. That one is stronger. It cannot operate on it because it's weaker than it. So we cannot do that. So we keep the way it is originally. Whether it is the preferred argument or not is not the question here. But the question is, look at the beauty of arguments. Look at the strength of arguments, the beauty of that rationale, and what underlies Shari'i reasoning. How could one not respect that? How could one, and most don't know these details, say, I am enough to argue. I disregard the expertise of the experts, rahimahumullah ta'ala. And then when they differ, some of us perhaps may respond in ways, because we have an opinion or the other, in ways that are so staunch and so spiteful and so disrespectful and quick in making judgments of this is kufr, or this is fisq, or this is bid'ah, or this is kada, when one is not at the level of those ulama rahimahumullah ta'ala. That's definitely, at least to say, it's a terrible mistake in what? In Shari'i methodology. It's a terrible mistake in Shari'i methodology. Because part of the Shari'i methodology is a clear, powerful, rational methodology as well. So we cannot do that. So that is also the scholars look at from am to khas before they make a judgment. Are there qara'in that lead from a generality of a hukm to the specificity of a hukm before making a hukm? And then I have other things here. What are the legal capacity, impeding circumstances? Now we come to finally the subject of the law, for whom there is a fatwa to be issued, for them or about them. Are they of ahliyah for these ahkam? What is the ahliyah? أهلية المكلف لأداء هذه الأحكام أو لصحة هذه الأحكام. In other words, what is the level of the legal capacity of the subject of the law? That has to be studied further. What if the person is under coercion? What if the person is crazy? What if the person was under very special extenuating circumstances? How is the legal capacity of that individual affected or impeded? Even in secular laws, in courts, when there is a case of whatever case, some people, plead in defense with what? Insanity. That's an aspect of legal incapacitation. But there are many different ones in the Sharia. At what level does that influence the legal verdict? Or modify the legal verdict? Or nullify the legal verdict? That the scholar, the mujtahid, the alim, the mufti, worth the name, has to study very critically. In some situations it is simple, in some situations it is complex as well. And then I have one of those other ones at last on the left, apparent conflict. What does apparent conflict means? And removal of that conflict. The scholar has texts, and upon all that analysis that we mentioned earlier and more to come, the scholar notices that there is apparent conflict in the meanings drawn from this and that text. They don't seem to match. And yet all texts assume all texts are authentic texts. Now the scholar has to be even more skillful, more intelligent, more experienced, and cleaner in his qalb and spiritually to be able now to remove the conflict. Because we say apparent conflict, because there is no contradiction in the words of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when we know they are authentically communicated to us. The conflict is apparent to us. But the experts, as they delve into that apparent conflict, they would draw the conclusion and remove that conflict, and we find there is actually no conflict on the basis of this and this logic and this argument. Finally, to come to a verdict. And then there are more things to take care of, which we are going to skip for now. The inclusion of the legal objectives. All of that is to be considered. Of which, now this hukm, this legal verdict, which is this or that, whether it is hukm wad'i or hukm taklifi. If it is hukm taklifi, it is wajib or haram or makruh or mustahab and so on. Now, this legal verdict, as we draw it from that, now the circumstance in which we're dealing with, is it related to a illah or not, for example? Is this hukm mu'allal or not? Does this hukm have a rationale behind it? Some ask what is the difference between sabab and illah. We can spend time, but we don't have time to spend. There is a difference, an interesting heuristic difference between the word sabab, cause, and the word illah, operative cause or effective cause. Now, if the hukm has associated with it a illah, and in the circumstance that the scholar now, the mujtahid, is answering, that illah is modified, has changed, then more likely than not, the original verdict has to change. Has to change. Whereas if we ignore the legal objectives of the lawgiver, we will ignore the illah behind the legal verdict, and the scholar would give a verdict that is erroneous. That's why the ulama say, al-ahkamu taduru hawla ilaliha wujudan wa adama. They say legal verdicts revolve around their operative causes. If the operative causes are present, the legal verdict is present. If the operative cause is absent, the legal verdict is absent. So in such a case, is it present or absent? Some cases are very simple. Assume somebody, he said they drank wine, which is the illah for khamr to be haram. But if somebody said he drank wine because I saw it was a bottle of wine and it said wine and it was red and that color and I saw that, khair, and we take it, and somehow nowadays we analyze it and it has no alcohol in it at all, and it is called wine. Is that haram? Answer me. No, it is not. Because it's not haram because it is called wine. It is haram because the illah of tahrim, intoxication. As Muslims, alhamdulillah, we shouldn't call it that way, but assume we're here, and it's called beer. And you analyze it, and it doesn't have any intoxicant in it. Is that which is called beer halal or haram? Why is it? Because the illah is removed. The illah is removed. So it becomes halal. This is a very simple, obvious example. But there are other examples, much more complex, in transactions, in levels that are much more complex in life, and issues much more complex in life that can produce a change in the ultimate verdict. وهكذا. Many things are to be considered before the final verdict is mentioned. We didn't have time to go through this part here, and the level of the prioritization of the benefit of the maslaha that Allah Azza wa Jal, the lawgiver, intends to promote in every legal verdict, and how the ulama have to consider that, and the levels of that, and what needs to be done with all of that, all of this. And at the end of that, we have finally the legal verdict is either qat'i or dhanni. With that, the ultimate legal verdict is still either definitive or probabilistic. And the scholar knows that. This is what the shara requires, but in the mind of the alim, it is obligatory, but it is probabilistic. And this one is obligatory but qat'i, definitive. And there is a conceptual difference certainly between the two, and a practical difference between the two as well. So when the conclusion by the alim mujtahid is this is probabilistic versus this is definitive qat'i, then you find them so humbly expressing that which is dhanni, wallahu ta'ala alam, they say. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala says, ra'yi sawabun yahtamilu al-khata', on these matters like that, of dhanni conclusions. Wa ra'yu khasmi khata'un yahtamilu al-sawab. My legal opinion on this issue is right, with a probability that it is wrong. And the opinion of my opponent is wrong, with a probability that it is right. In that sense, that's the spirit at the end of dhanni hukm, on the basis of ijtihad. And knowing all of this and much more, my dear brothers and sisters, must necessarily humble us as to the value and the beauty of the Shari'i system, of the Shari'i approach. Must really humble us as to the way we view the ulama, rahimahumullah ta'ala, the mujtahidun, rahimahumullah ta'ala. Unless one has not practiced and delved into the details of this system, one would not have the required reverence for that ilm and for those ulama and their differences born out of what you see. And we still didn't cover all of what we needed to cover. These things are the summary of 10 years of studies or more in these charts. The intent is that we show respect and reverence. Any opinion within the purview of such a methodology of our ulama, rahimahullah ta'ala, the ulama al-mujtahidun, must be respected. And that's diversity within unity. That's diversity. Their diversity is within unity. Their diversity is within unity. For me or for anybody else, within this diversity, to exclude it from unity is almost a crime, if not a real crime. For in the name of this is right and this is wrong, we disregard the rights of the most brilliant of thinkers in our history. We deprive them of the rights to express their ijtihadi opinions and to have them valid to be followed is irrational, let alone immoral. It's irrational, let alone immoral, my dear brothers and sisters. Our attitude in the masajid especially, of course, and at homes and the communities, is as long as we know that this expression of whatever opinion is within the purview of the ulama ul-mujtahidun, I underline, the mujtahids, scholars and ulama, we must only show reverence to it, whether we follow it or we follow another mujtahid, ijtihadi opinion of a single mujtahid or a school or a single school of ijtihad. We must not let this diversity that Allah allowed as a rahmah to us to become constriction and to be constricted and to become a curse against us. And an attitude and a mindset that rejects these notions established 14 centuries through 14 centuries of scholarly endeavors by the ulama, and most of this is in the first 4 centuries, who have established that, rahimahumullah ta'ala, to help this unity and to help the diversity in this unity and to help the peace and security. To take that and to ignore it is to be an instrument for divisiveness, to be an instrument for conflict, to be an instrument for hate, to be an instrument for what we are experiencing nowadays of some of the most atrocious expressions of disagreements through not only killing, but some of the worst types of crimes and of killing. Wal-'iyadhu billah. That's what it leads to. And the loss of one life in general, of any human being unjustly, is of the worst crimes, believing or non-believing. And the loss of a life of a mu'min is horrible and even worse, especially at the hand of one who also claims to be a mu'min. But where does that begin? It begins by the basics, the level of the basics. When little knowledge is considered as big knowledge and therefore dangerous knowledge. That's where it begins. And if we, as I said many times, and I absolve myself from my own iniquities, as you said many times, for those of us who want details and want to argue with the ulama about details, but have never learned and striven to learn the details, to listen to that, and we still talk, that's a crime. If you want to delve into the details of ilm, then learn to be a student of ilm. Work hard for years and years of studying and studying and studying. With the niyyah, not being an alim, but with the niyyah of worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. Because the more I know, the more I must worship Allah Azza wa Jal. I learn to be a better abd of Allah Azza wa Jal. I don't learn to teach people. If you start that way, chances are you will end up in a pit. We will end up in a pit of arrogance. We should learn ilm and love ilm so that I worship Allah better and better and better. And with that, if we do that, Allah will give us the gifts, indeed, of representing His ilm subhanahu wa ta'ala and His deen the right way, bi'idhnihi azza wa jal. I cannot say enough, indeed, because one session, though, it took from 11 o'clock to now, and I thought I would not be able to do it. But alhamdulillah, by the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal, in His help and your dua, I hope I found it so quick. And there is so much more to be covered. But if I have conveyed anything that I would like everybody to understand, my dear brothers and sisters, is that general meaning. Respect the differences of the ulama. Do not, even if somebody is termed as an alim who teaches you to hate other ulama, there don't listen to them. There don't listen to them, no matter who they are, on this side or that side or the other side. But if they express to you that this is the opinion of a mujtahid or of some mujtahids, respect it and accept it, even if you're following the opinion of another mujtahid. Even if you think in accordance to your mujtahid that it is wrong, but don't think it is kufr. Don't think it is bid'ah. Don't think it is this, it is that. As long as it is within the purview of, I repeat what? Ijtihad. Authentic ijtihad within the framework and the purview of what we were trying all day today here to elucidate. And the processes through which the ulama go and walk through before they come to conclusions. To do otherwise is to eat the flesh of alim. And one alim said, the flesh of alim is poisonous. Be careful, don't eat it. لحوم العلماء مسمومة. The likes of Ibn al-Qayyim and before him and after him said, beware of the flesh of the ulama. The flesh of the ulama are poisonous. What does it mean, poisonous? You eat the flesh of the ulama means what? You backbite them. You speak ill of them. That's what it means. You eat their flesh. As Allah teaches us that backbiting your brother is like eating the flesh of your own brother dead. And he said, that flesh is poisonous. You will die, not he. You will die spiritually. Allah will punish you. If we don't respect them, whom do we respect? Whom do we respect if we don't respect Abu Hanifa and Shafi'i and Malik and Ibn Hanbal and Sufyan al-Thawri and Ibn Uyayna and Al-Awza'i and Al-Nawawi? If you don't respect them, whom do you respect? Yourself? Khalas, you respect yourself. But if you respect yourself, you will respect them even more so. And therefore I should be humble when it comes to their differences. Don't jump to, this is sunnah, this is bid'ah. Take it easy. Take it easy. Say, this alim says it is this. You don't have to agree or disagree. This alim says that. This alim says that. Some would ask you, which alim of old said that? And you say, no, I mean alim nowadays. Well, I may have an issue with you. I don't think any alim nowadays equals Abu Hanifa. I don't think any alim nowadays equals a Shafi'i. I don't think any alim nowadays equals Malik. I don't think any alim nowadays equals Ahmad ibn Hanbal or Sufyan Thawri or Ibn Uyayna or even Al-Nawawi. None. Khalas. Especially if the majority of the ulama of old and of now have one opinion, and some ulama of now have a different opinion. With all due respect, khalas. The majority of the ulama, statistically speaking, in the rational sense, are probably more right than the minority opinion, statistically speaking. So if a majority of ulama even are saying something, don't jump, this is kufr and this is bid'ah. Are you all right? It's not rational, it's not logical, it's not moral, and it's not ethical, and it's not spiritual. That's what this teaches us, to appreciate those differences, to appreciate the beauty of that system, and to be kind and forbearing. My dear brothers and sisters, I know it's past time of the adhan. I know that, of course. I'm going to indulge, inshallah ta'ala. I'm going to finish in the first and next seconds. Is that okay? Jazakumullah khair. Now I finish. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help me and all of you, ya'lamullah, practice these words and keep unity with one another. Keep love with one another in the midst of genuine scholarly differences. And that we learn to be humble. We learn to be respectful. We learn to be polite when we disagree, as long as those disagreements are within the purview of that Shari'i methodology. May Allah Azza wa Jal help us make sense of this. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. Ya Allah, please help us see truth as truth and help us see falsehood as falsehood, and give us the strength to embrace truth, and give us the strength to keep away from falsehood. Now, later on, as I'm here, as long as Allah wills, with my beautiful brothers and sisters, if you have any question pertaining to what we've been learning, and you seek, alhamdulillah, to improve your knowledge or to understand things that were unclear, I'd be more than happy, alhamdulillah, to indulge you in a beautiful learning experience for both of us. But I do not want anybody to come to me or to anybody else with disrespect, with an attitude of impoliteness, with an attitude of vindictiveness. I do not like that. I'm a human being. I do not want that. I do not approve of that. I may forbear that. I may be patient with that, bi-idhnillah, if Allah gives me that. But I do not like that. And that's not the attitude of a genuine human being, let alone a genuine Muslim, let alone a genuine student of ilm, let alone a genuine scholar. But with politeness and with adab, I will kiss your feet. يعلم Allah. I have no hardships of kissing the feet of a mu'min. No hardship with that. But outside of that, I can also be totally the opposite. Allah knows, which I strive very strongly not to do ever. يعلم Allah. So, everyone is welcome, alhamdulillah, to comment and to ask, alhamdulillah, but with those norms. I learn also from you, and you will learn well. But if we come with that attitude, I will not learn, and you will not learn. And we want to learn together. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم رب إذا تم صلاة القائمات الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة